In the warm, golden breath of the Egyptian desert, where the Nile snakes like a ribbon through sand and time, the people of one of the world's oldest civilizations looked beyond life. Their monuments were not built for the living, they were built for eternity. Stone pyramids pierced the sky not as homes, but as passageways. Tombs were carved not for memory, but for preparation. And inside those sacred chambers, nestled among treasures and prayers, was a simple, glistening substance that held its own kind of immortality: honey. For the ancient Egyptians, death was not an end but a journey, a vast and perilous voyage through the underworld, guided by sacred texts and measured by the weight of the soul. The body, carefully embalmed and wrapped in linen, was meant to last the test of centuries, just as the soul traveled through judgment and transformation. And because the Egyptians believed the afterlife was a continuation of earthly life, with joys, feasts, work, and beauty, they ensured their dead were provided with all they might need: weapons, tools, jewelry, cosmetics, and food. Among the offerings left in tombs, honey appears again and again. Not in small, symbolic amounts, but in full, carefully sealed jars, often still intact when uncovered by modern archaeologists. In fact, honey found in Egyptian tombs has been opened thousands of years later and found to be perfectly edible. That's not myth. That's science. That's honey. There is something astonishing about this quiet durability. In a world where even our most advanced packaged foods have expiration dates, honey stands alone as an edible artifact. Its composition is nature's perfection: low moisture, high sugar concentration, a slightly acidic pH, and natural hydrogen peroxide formed through the enzymatic work of bees. This combination makes it an inhospitable environment for bacteria and mold. It doesn't ferment. It doesn't rot. It simply exists, untouched by time, a food so stable, so incorruptible, that it became part of a civilization's quest for eternal life. But honey was more than practical. It was sacred. In Egyptian mythology, bees were said to have been born from the tears of the sun god Ra. As his tears fell to earth, they transformed into bees, tiny messengers of divine sweetness. That alone is a poetic truth, that honey, in all its golden richness, is sunlight made edible. It is the warmth of the world captured and distilled, drop by drop, into a gift from the gods. So when Egyptians placed honey into the tombs of their kings and queens, they weren't just packing provisions. They were sending a prayer, a blessing, a divine substance to nourish the soul across the threshold of death. Even the process of making honey must have seemed magical to the ancient mind. Thousands of bees, working in perfect coordination, transforming the ephemeral into the eternal. Nectar gathered from the brief bloom of desert flowers becomes a substance that never fades. It was the perfect metaphor for life after death. The fleeting turned everlasting, the mortal transformed. And in our modern world, honey continues to whisper those ancient truths. Science tells us more now than the Egyptians could have imagined about honey's antibacterial power, its use in wound healing, its antioxidant compounds that protect cells from damage. It contains traces of over 180 substances, including amino acids, vitamins, minerals, and bioactive enzymes. It is food, but also medicine. It soothes the throat, it feeds beneficial gut bacteria, it calms inflammation. In hospitals today, honey is used to treat burns and ulcers because it prevents infection while encouraging regeneration. It does what the best medicines do, without needing a prescription. And yet, none of this diminishes the mystery of it. In fact, it only deepens it. Because honey, for all its scientific wonder, still connects us to something beyond ourselves. To taste it is to taste time, not the linear ticking of clocks, but the deep time of cycles, of flowers blooming, bees working, civilizations rising and falling. When we eat honey, we share something with the pharaohs, with the priests of Ra, with the nameless artisans who painted stars on tomb ceilings and wrapped their dead in dreams. Imagine it, the tomb of an Egyptian noble, sealed in darkness for 3,000 years. The air inside still, dry, sacred. The wrappings of the mummy intact. The murals vibrant with color. And there, in the corner, a jar. You open it. Inside, honey. as golden and fragrant as the day it was placed there. A spoonful on your tongue, and you taste the past. You taste something unchanged by empire or erosion. Something that outlasted kings. That is the legacy of honey. It is not just food. It is not just sweet. It is eternal. And in that eternity, it connects us, not only to our ancestors, but to the rhythms of the earth, the sacred labor of bees, the warmth of the sun, the poetry of survival. Honey was the food of the afterlife not only because it lasted, but because it symbolized everything the Egyptians believed in: preservation, transformation, divinity. And today, though we may no longer fill tombs with jars of honey, we still reach for it when we seek comfort, healing, or sweetness that feels pure. It reminds us that not all miracles are myths. Some, like honey, are real, golden, patient, enduring, and waiting, as always, to be tasted.